Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today with my friend Marcy Meldahl. And Marcy and I are also on the board of Blue Tennessee, an organization that we both love dearly. But today we are here to talk about an organization that she works with that when I learned about just warmed my heart. I thought it fit right in with the advocacy arena goals of building stronger communities and, the different ways that shows up in communities. So, Marcy, thank you for being here with me today. Would you introduce yourself and tell people about this wonderful organization that you're a part of?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your interest in the organization. The name is Random Acts of Flowers, and obviously a play on Random Acts of Kindness. I am a volunteer there. I've been there about 10 years. The organization was started in 2007 as a result of an accident by the founder. He was working on his home and he was home alone, he tells it, and he fell off the roof. And he ended up in the hospital, needless to say. And while he was there is when he got this idea. He received many, many, many bouquets of flowers. And when he was able to get up, and walked down the hall, he noticed many patient rooms had nothing. So he started pulling the cards out of his flowers and delivering flowers to patient rooms. And that's what we do today. And so the idea for Random Acts was flowers was born then. And let me read you the mission statement because it turns out this is exactly what has happened. The mission statement is Random Acts of Flowers improves the emotional health and well-being of individuals in healthcare facilities by delivering recycled flowers, encouragement, and personal moments of kindness.
What a beautiful mission. I imagine being a volunteer for this organization. I'm not sure what capacity that you work in, but I was just reviewing the website and it just made me smile because I want to talk a little bit about the different ways and opportunities that people can support and participate in the mission of this organization and also tell people where this is located.
Random Acts was founded in Knoxville, so we've been operating in Knoxville since 2008. However, there are three other locations: Tampa, Florida, Asheville, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, those are pretty disparate areas, widely separated from each other. At one time, Larson J. is the name of the founder. He was looking to set up other workshops, I guess I'd call them, in other cities. That didn't work out the way he wanted it to. So what we have now is the ability for anybody who wants to start a Random Acts of Flowers to get assistance from this organization and learn what they need to do in order to get it up and running.
Okay, so kind of like a model for others
Yes,
to follow.
right.
How wonderful. And I looked again on the website, it looks like they're opening up another location in Tennessee, in Chattanooga, maybe. They are anticipating that.
Could be. I'm not involved in the
The
management of the organization. I just know more about it because I've been there so long. I know probably all of us would love to see its mission expand.
Yes, I would. Like I said, it just seems like such a wonderful thing to be a part of. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what capacity that you volunteer in and what drew you to the organization.
It's a little bit of a fluke. I was at a meeting at my church. It was right around the time Larson started, so it was in 2008. And my pastor had been in Leadership Knoxville with Larson and apparently learned of the mission that Larson was beginning. So at that time, he asked the parish council for permission to go ahead and donate $500. And we all thought it was a great idea, and I in particular thought it was a great idea. And he did that. Now, I sat there at the time, I was still employed full time, and I thought, oh, that sounds wonderful. I might like to do that. And I've always wanted to learn to arrange flowers. So when I retired shortly after I retired in 2015, I retired in 2014. In 2015, my son and his wife got married, and Cassie mentioned she had called to donate her flowers to Random Acts. And I thought, perfect timing. I had just finished the wedding and now I could go on to other things. I got in touch with Random Acts that week and I have been uh, volunteering since 2015, since March of 2015. So for 10 years now.
Wow. So what do you do when you volunteer? Like how often do
Well,
you have to actually, do something,
that's a good question. What I do is I arrange flowers. And to my complete amusement, I have had people say to me, "Oh, were you a florist in real life?"
Whoa, must
No,
be
I
pretty
was not.
good.
I was actually a human resources professional. And what I learned is really you can learn to do this. So,
Hmm.
yes, maybe there's a little bit of a knack, but you can learn to do this. So, mostly I arrange flowers. And that, I have to tell you, Dee, has been for all of us volunteers a huge stress relief. When you leave your job, you often have to find a new circle of friends. And this group that I have met through this organization has become my circle of friends, all of us devoted to this mission. So I arrange on Thursdays. Here's how it works: on Mondays and Wednesdays, flower picker uppers get bouquets from the grocery stores primarily. And most people don't know it, but grocery stores have to discard unsold flowers by a certain date. They have a sell by date. So instead of putting them in the trash or wherever they put them, we have arrangements to pick up with them on a regular schedule. Those are prepped and sorted on Mondays and Wednesdays, ready for the arrangers on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. The arrangements made on those days are delivered that afternoon to whatever facilities are on the schedule. And we go to hospitals, assisted living. We even deliver at places like dialysis centers, which really excites people because they're coming in for something that's difficult or tiresome for them, and they leave with a handful of flowers.
I know. And yeah, when I was caregiving for my mom in her end stages, we spent a lot of days there. So I can imagine the joy that something like that would bring.
Well, and we've found out I have delivered some in the hospitals, and we'll have people trail us down the hall and say, "Can I buy another one?" And we said, "You can have another one." And they don't believe us. We have to convince them that they may take another one. So the effect on people, some cry. Some men have said, "Oh, nobody ever sent me flowers before." One man, this was funny. I was at an assisted living facility and I said, "These are for you." And he said, "My wife's not here." And I said, "No, no, these are for you." And he said, "Nobody ever gave me flowers before." And I think one man actually refused them. I think he was just so shocked. But we leave them behind if they don't take them from us, which is rare. And I think by now we've been in the community long enough that people know about us and it's much easier. They sort of expect us, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, and I was noticing on the website that you have certain months where you kind of have like a push and a drive. So
Yes.
I looked and I was like, well, June is one of those months. So what a wonderful time your episode will be airing
Hey,
then. So I think that is a wonderful thing that you do. Do you know a little bit about the various months and the initiatives of them?
I do. June is I think we call it the brightest month. And
Yes.
that's because the longest day of the year is in June.
Hmm.
And for people who have memory issues, especially sundowners, which of course is, I'm not a doctor, so I may not explain this right, but it's a time of day when older people who are afflicted with sundowners get agitated in particular. So we deliver flowers as widely as we can. Now, let me digress for a moment. That depends on the flowers we receive.
Right.
We also get them from weddings, funerals, events. People in Knoxville have been very well trained to call us or any event. And sometimes we pick up as little as two arrangements, and sometimes we have to load a truck.
Wow.
Dollywood gives us their flowers. Dollywood sends us the ones that Dolly herself uses on the day she opens the park.
And I noticed that they're a big partner or supporter of the
Yes.
organization. I
Well,
was
you can
looking.
imagine Dolly being a big supporter of anything that builds community.
Yes, exactly. And that just brightened I was really happy to see that because I do think, she is one of our treasures. And as you said, when she cares about something, you can be guaranteed that it's a
Absolutely.
good thing and that it involves community, enriching community. So I was like, Dollywood seal of approval here.
And we'd love to get her out to the workshop so she can see what we do, but you can imagine her schedule, so that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And I also noticed that you guys have kind of like special events that people can, kind of create or be a
Mhm.
part of. Like you can actually have an event around flower arranging and things.
Yes,
And I'm like, that's awesome. What a great way to, like bring people together to do something, as you said. And for me, you had me at flowers because,
that's true for most people. Yes, those are I believe that companies use those types of events as team building.
okay.
So they can have, I'm not there regularly when they have them, but they can have as few as 4 people. And I heard about one that was 40 people, which is almost more than I could certainly handle. But the way those are structured is number one, it introduces people to our mission, and certainly in the best way possible because they are creating arrangements. They get a little short lesson on how to arrange, how to cut flowers, and the various things you can do to stretch flowers if we don't have a lot, how to use greenery, that sort of thing. Then they're given, I believe this is usually the case, 2 vases, and they make 2 arrangements, or I guess they could make more. One they get to take home, and one they leave behind, and it's used the next day as part of our delivery. So those go out to the nursing homes and the hospitals that we support, but they're made by volunteers.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. And of course, I know you have one, and there's a special kind of initiative around Christmas time.
Hmm.
And I saw something, I think, in the month of September. And I just look like this is so well thought out and planned. And I would love to see these, pop up all around the nation and spreading a little joy.
Well, and they certainly, we haven't had a dud yet. You say planned. I think we evolved. I think the better word is these evolved.
Mm-hmm.
In May, in fact, we just finished our arrangements for May, and in November, we do special things for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And for this past Memorial Day, excuse me, when I was there on Thursday, we were making lots and lots of arrangements because they were delivered as far away as Johnson City to the VA Medical Center up there.
Wonderful.
I have not gone on that trip, but I understand the veterans get in line to make sure they get one if they're not residents of the facility. So we try to have a lot so that everybody gets one. So those
That's
are done specially on those days that would be mostly, certainly super special to veterans. We also do at sometimes of the year, we do bud vases, and those go to Meals on Wheels recipients. You can imagine these are people whose only encounter with others is when they get meals delivered. So to find a nice little arrangement on their tray it's heartwarming. And then at
That's
Christmas,
beautiful.
we deliver poinsettias. I believe we get them donated. I mean, because we don't, most people don't have poinsettias, so we have to make special arrangements for those. And I actually did that one year to a woman in the hospital. And it was heartbreaking. She was curled up in her bed, blinds were closed. I walked in and I spoke to her, and she apparently has no family. And here she is in the hospital at Christmas.
Wow.
And I mean, you feel like you're bringing sunshine to people who haven't seen sunshine in a long time in cases like
I can only imagine, and I do know what that's like to spend Christmas in the hospital again, caring for my mother. We spent one year Thanksgiving in one hospital, Christmas in another hospital.
yes.
And of course, New Year's in a rehab facility. And we, just worked really hard. She did to get out so that she could celebrate her birthday in February, at home. And so I do know what that's like. And so to be able to bring a little joy to people who are experiencing,
Yes.
that at that time of year, because I think it's hard anyway.
It is. And we, as members of the community, come in. So the people whose job it is to take care of them, who do a good job every day, they know the community is also doing something for them.
Exactly. And that, again, to me, is something that always catches my attention and opens my heart to see things that I know have a sizable impact in the community. Because I
Yes.
think that really that's how we make our world better by, doing things that make our communities
And
better.
one person at a time makes a community.
Exactly. Exactly. So
And we
I,
also, by the way, delivered a children's hospital. And we have special mugs and things that we collect. Let me divert for a minute. We collect donations of vases. We have cups, vases, bud vases. Sometimes we get actual crystal vases because somebody's cleaning out their mother's basement and either doesn't want it or doesn't know what it is and said, here, take it. But for the children's hospital, we have cups that have characters on them like Batman and some of the, I don't even know what the current crop of children's characters is. So I can't tell you when I see it, but we make special arrangements for them. And we have things we make, or we have people who make them, where we'll stick a little, the little plastic soldiers and animals and things that
Yeah.
kids play with. We attach that to something, and that goes in the plant as well. So when you make an arrangement, you sometimes you'll have something sticking out, like depends on what you're doing. But in this case, it is a character that we've put on a stick or a straw for them, and that catches their attention right away. So that's really fun when we're doing it for the kids. And when we do it for the memory units, we have to use plastic. So we have made some bases out of tennis ball containers that have been decorated by some of our very talented volunteers, and we use those in memory care facilities.
That is beautiful. I mean, so many things that I love are intertwined in this because, I love flowers. I take a lot of pictures of them. I try to grow a few, but I grew up with gardeners who shared the love of gardening with me. And then this creative thing, of course, the flower arranging, but as you said, you kind of recycling vases and, making them into, something new and beautiful. And that's so touching. And
And
I didn't,
we
go
do
ahead.
have gardeners who grow flowers for us.
Whoa, that's
They
beautiful.
they have large plots, I guess, or they may be a wholesaler. I guess that's the right word, a wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
But they will often bring us over the summer lovely flowers. I mean, you would die for looking at all the flowers that we get. They're beautiful.
Wow, I would love that. If they ever get one here in Nashville, I know where my volunteer activities.
Well, you need to promote it.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to do in this interview. And, I want to wrap up a little bit, but before we do, I just, want you to kind of share with the Advocacy Arena audience and others that may be listening and find us how, even though they don't have one there locally, how they can contribute to support in some way the organizations that do currently exist and maybe start their own.
Well, okay, there's a couple questions there, so let me take them one at a time. To support Random Acts, like any nonprofit, we always need money. And I will say that while we get most of I'm not the executive director, so I'm going to speculate here, but we get so many of our flowers donated the various ways I mentioned. But there are times when we are just flat short of flowers and we have to go to a local wholesaler and buy some. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough that the supply of flowers plus keeping the lights on, this is an organization that works almost exclusively off volunteers, and we love it. But there are actual expenses that have to be paid, and so money is always welcome. If anybody wanted to start their own or thought this sounded like a good idea, there is a link on the Random Acts webpage. I haven't looked at it because I'm already involved in one, but I think it talks a little bit about what to do and who to contact. So that's a possibility. And there may be things like how far are you from how many medical centers are in your area and how far are you from each of them and that sort of thing that may be an issue. I'm not sure. I did want to tell one story that I think will make an impact on how community building this is. We realized that people who got some of the earliest arrangements in the hospital went on, and when they were deceased, they specifically requested we get their flowers because they remembered how much it meant to them when they received them, that they wanted to make sure we rearranged them and sent them to other people. And that almost makes me cry because it means it meant so much to them and their families. And we repeatedly get those thank you notes and so forth.
That's beautiful.
Here their memory goes to other people in essence. And I have been fortunate. I've had a few friends who have either had a spouse die or whatever it may be, and they have asked me to pick up their flowers. Now, I could give them into the workshop and ask other people to use them, but I will typically make a special trip and make arrangements from those flowers, which are, if you can imagine, are meaningful to me, take pictures and then send them back to the survivor. It might be a grandchild, might be a husband, and so forth. so they can see what we did with their flowers. And that seems to comfort people a lot to know those flowers have gone to other people in a similar situation.
Yes, I mean, something that I'm sure brings a bit of sorrow, but knowing
Yes,
that their sorrow, some aspects of it can bring joy to someone else. And I really do like that concept. And
yes.
thank you for telling that
One time I
story.
had to use I had flowers from a former coworker, and I had trouble getting through that.
I'm sure.
But I did the best I could and talked to her while I was doing it.
Aw, that is beautiful, Marcy. Well, I think that's a beautiful story for us to end on. Can you tell our audience the name of the organization and website again
I
before we
can.
close?
The name of the organization is Random Acts of Flowers, and its website is very similar, randomactsofflowers. We'd love to have you join us in spirit, if not in donations.
Okay. Well, thanks so
Thank you, Dee.
much. Well, thank you, Marcy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for publicizing what we do.
All right.
Bye bye.